The stars were quiet in the outer reaches. They were always quiet here, far from the busy trade routes and crowded stations of the Galactic Coalition. Nothing lived in this part of space. Nothing moved. That was why Captain Tellus liked it. She stood at the front of her ship, the Star Weaver, and looked out at the endless black. Her forearms were folded behind her back. Her gray skin reflected the soft blue light of the control screens. She was tired. They had been traveling for 3 weeks, mapping dead systems and empty planets. It was boring work, but someone had to do it. "Captain," said her navigator, a small creature with too many eyes. "I am picking up something strange." Tellus turned slowly. "Strange how?" "There is an object ahead. Very large. It is not on any of our maps." This was unusual. The Coalition had mapped most of the galaxy over thousands of years. They knew where every planet was. They knew where every asteroid floated. Finding something new was rare. "Show me," Tellus said. The main screen flickered and changed. At first, Tellus saw nothing but stars. Then, the computer drew a circle around something in the distance. It was a shape. A long, dark shape drifting through space. "What is that?" she asked. "I do not know," the navigator admitted. "It appears to be a ship. A very old ship." Tellus felt a chill run down her spine. Old ships in empty space meant only one thing: death. "Scan it," she ordered. "Full analysis. I want to know everything." The crew worked quickly. Data filled the screens. Numbers and symbols that told a story Tellus did not want to hear. The ship was ancient. The computer said it was at least 800 years old, maybe more. It was made of metal and composite materials that no known species used anymore. The design was strange, built for long journeys across great distances. But the most troubling part was this: there were no life signs, no power readings, no heat. The ship was dead. "It is a ghost ship," whispered one of the crew members. Tellus did not believe in ghosts, but she understood why her crew was scared. Ghost ships were bad luck. They were tombs floating in the void, carrying the bones of forgotten travelers. Most captains would turn away and pretend they never saw anything. But Tellus was not most captains. "Take us closer," she said. "I want to see it." The Star Weaver moved forward slowly. As they got closer, the ghost ship grew larger on the screen. It was massive, much bigger than the Star Weaver. It could have carried thousands of people. Tellus tried to imagine what kind of civilization would build such a thing. Where had they come from? Where had they been going? And why had they died? "Captain," the navigator said, his voice shaking. "The ship is transmitting something." Tellus froze. "That is not possible. You said there was no power." "I know, but there is a signal. Very weak. It is repeating over and over. Play it." The bridge fell silent as a sound filled the air. It was not music. It was not speech. It was something in between. A pattern of tones that rose and fell like waves on a beach. The translator tried to make sense of it, but failed. The language was unknown. "I have never heard anything like this," Tellus said quietly. She listened for a long time. The signal was sad, she realized. It sounded like someone crying out across the centuries, hoping that someone, anyone, would hear them. "Where is this signal aimed?" she asked. The navigator checked his screens. His many eyes went wide with surprise. "It is aimed at a specific location," he said. "Coordinates in an uncharted region." "Captain, those coordinates are in human space." Human space. The words hung in the air like a bad smell. The humans were new to the galaxy. They had appeared about 50 years ago, claiming a small group of stars near the edge of known space. They were strange creatures. They kept to themselves. They traded a little, but talked even less. Most coalition species thought they were hiding something. Why would an ancient ship be sending a signal to the humans? Tellus wondered aloud. No one had an answer. Tellus made a decision. It was a risky decision, but she was curious. She had to know the truth. Send a message to the humans, she ordered. Include the signal and our location. Tell them we found something that might belong to them. Her crew looked at her with shock. Contacting the humans directly was almost unheard of. But Tellus was the captain. Her word was law. The message was sent. Then they waited. 1 hour passed. Then 2. Tellus began to think the humans would ignore them, just as they ignored everyone else. Then a reply came. It was short. Just 2 words in simple coalition standard language. Tellus read them on the screen, and for the first time in her long career, she felt truly afraid. The message said, "We're coming." Tellus looked back at the ghost ship floating in the darkness. She looked at the ancient metal and the dead windows and the centuries of silence. What did we find? She whispered to herself. She did not know it yet, but she had just changed the course of galactic history. She had just woken up something that the void had tried to forget. And now that something was coming, the humans were coming, and they were bringing 800 years of grief with them. The message arrived on Earth at 7 in the morning. The sun was rising over Seoul, painting the sky in soft shades of pink and gold. It was a peaceful morning. It would not stay peaceful for long. Gina was drinking her coffee when her tablet began to beep. She was the director of the United Earth Recovery Initiative, a government office that most people thought was useless. Her job was to track lost ships and missing colonies from the old days, before humanity had faster than light travel. Most of those ships were gone forever. Most of those people were dust, but Gina kept looking anyway. It was all she knew how to do. She picked up her tablet and read the message. Then she dropped her coffee cup. It shattered on the floor, but she did not notice. The message was from an alien ship called the Starweaver. It contained a set of coordinates and a signal. A very specific signal. A signal that Gina had memorized 20 years ago when she first started this job. That was the identification code of the Eternal Dawn. Gina's hands were shaking as she made the call. Within 1 hour, she was standing in front of the Emergency Council. Within 2 hours, every important person on Earth knew the news. The Eternal Dawn had been found. 800 years ago, that ship had left Earth carrying 50,000 people. They were colonists, brave souls who wanted to find a new home among the stars. They had packed everything they owned. They had said goodbye to everyone they loved. They had flown into the darkness with hope in their hearts, and then they had vanished. No signal, no wreckage, nothing. One day they were there. The next day they were gone. Earth searched for them for decades. Earth built new ships and sent them in every direction. But the Eternal Dawn was never found. The loss broke humanity. Wars started. Governments fell. For 200 years, Earth burned. Billions died. The survivors called it the long grief. But humanity did not die. Slowly, painfully, they rebuilt. They discovered new science. They built new ships. They finally learned how to travel faster than light. They spread to the stars again, but quietly this time. Carefully. They did not forget what they had lost. They could never forget Dot, and now, after all this time, the Eternal Dawn had been found. Admiral Kang Doan was a serious man with gray hair and sad eyes. He had served in the Earth Defense Fleet for 40 years. He had never smiled in public. Some people said he had forgotten how Dot, when he heard the news, something changed in his face. It was not a smile, but it was close. It was hope. "I will lead the mission," he said. It was not a request. The council did not argue. Everyone knew that Doan had ancestors on the Eternal Dawn. His great-great-grandmother had been one of the ship's doctors. Her name was Kang Mira. Dohan kept her picture in his office. He had never met her, but he loved her anyway. Lieutenant Yoon Hana was young and talented. She was the best pilot in the fleet, but she was also known for being reckless. She took risks that other pilots would not take. She flew faster than anyone thought possible. Some people admired her. Others thought she was crazy. When she heard about the mission, she volunteered immediately. "Why do you want to go?" Her commander asked. Hannah thought about lying. She thought about saying something noble about duty and honor. But she was tired of lying. "My family was on that ship," she said quietly. 7 of them. I need to know what happened." Her commander nodded slowly. He understood. Everyone understood. The fleet departed 2 days later. 12 ships carrying engineers, doctors, historians, and soldiers. They traveled faster than any ships had traveled before. They did not stop to rest. They did not stop to eat. They had waited 800 years for this moment. They would not wait any longer. Hana sat in her pilot's seat and watched the stars blur past her window. She thought about her family. She thought about the 7 names on the manifest of the eternal dawn. 2 parents, 2 grandparents, 3 children. The youngest was a boy named Yoon Tae-ho. He was only 6 years old when the ship left Earth. Hannah had a picture of him. It was old and faded, but she carried it everywhere. In the picture, Tae-ho was smiling. He was holding a toy spaceship in his hands. He had wanted to be a pilot when he grew up. He never got the chance. Hana wiped her eyes and focused on the controls. She had a job to do. She had a promise to keep Dot in another ship. Admiral Dawn stood alone in his quarters. He was looking at the picture of Kang Mira. She was young in the picture, younger than Do-hun was now. She was smiling at something outside the frame. She looked happy. "I'm coming," Do-hun whispered to the picture. "I'm sorry it took so long, but I'm coming." The fleet flew through the darkness like a group of shooting stars. They were carrying the weight of 800 years on their shoulders. They were carrying the hopes of billions of people who had never stopped wondering, never stopped grieving, never stopped waiting. They did not know what they would find, but they knew one thing for certain. They would bring their people home, no matter what. Captain Tellus had seen many things in her long life. She had seen stars being born and planets dying. She had seen wars and peace and everything in between. She thought nothing could surprise her anymore. She was wrong. The human fleet arrived 3 days after she sent her message. 12 ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at exactly the same moment. They moved together like a school of fish, smooth and coordinated. Talos had to admit she was impressed. The humans knew how to fly, but what happened next surprised her more than anything. The human ships did not approach the ghost ship with weapons ready. They did not scan it or probe it or treat it like a mystery to be solved. Instead, they surrounded it. They formed a circle around the ancient vessel, and then they turned on their lights. Every ship lit up at once. Bright white lights, soft golden lights, lights of every color. They pointed their lights at the ghost ship and made it glow. For the first time in 800 years, the eternal dawn was not alone in the darkness. Then the music started. It came from the human ships, broadcast on open channels that anyone could hear. Talos listened with all 4 of her ears. The music was strange. It was slow and sad, but also beautiful. It sounded like crying, but it also sounded like hope. "What are they doing?" asked her navigator. "I do not know," Talos admitted, "but I want to watch." Small shuttles began to leave the human ships. They flew toward the ghost ship slowly, carefully, like children approaching a sleeping parent. The shuttles carried teams of humans. Talos expected to see soldiers and scientists. Instead, she saw families, old people and young people, men and women. Some of them were crying before they even reached the ship. The first team to enter the ghost ship was led by a tall man with gray hair. Telos learned later that his name was Kang Dawn. He was an admiral, the leader of the mission. But when he stepped onto the ghost ship, he did not act like a leader. He acted like a son coming home. "We found them," his voice crackled over the open channel. He sounded like he was crying. "We found them all." Telos did not understand. Found who? What was inside that ship? Over the next few hours, she learned the truth. The Eternal Dawn was not just a ghost ship. It was a tomb. A carefully preserved tomb that held 50,000 human bodies. The humans had died long ago, but they had not died badly. They had died peacefully, one by one, as their ship ran out of power. They had known they were going to die, and they had prepared. They had left messages, recordings, journals. They had written letters to people who had not been born yet. They had documented everything, every detail of their journey, every moment of their final days. They had aimed their frozen ship toward their home star and hoped that someday someone would come. It took 800 years. But their people came. Telos watched as the humans brought out body after body. Each one was wrapped in a white cloth. Each one was handled with extreme care. The humans spoke names aloud as they worked. Names that meant nothing to Telos, but clearly meant everything to them. "Why are they speaking names?" her navigator asked. "I think they are remembering," Telos said softly. The work continued for days. Telos kept her ship nearby, watching and recording everything. She saw things that confused her. She saw humans laughing even while they cried. She saw strangers hugging each other like old friends. She saw young people holding pictures of dead people they had never met. She saw a young woman named Yoon Hana find a section of the ship where her ancestors had died. The woman fell to her knees and touched the cold metal floor. She stayed there for a long time, not moving, not speaking. Then she played a recording that had been left behind. An old woman's voice filled the air. "If anyone ever hears this," the voice said, "tell them we were not afraid. Tell them we thought of home until the end. Tell them we love them." Hannah played the recording 17 times. Telos counted. "They are not like other species," her navigator said. "Other species would have left the bodies. They would have taken what was useful and gone away." Telos nodded slowly. "Yes, the humans are different." "Different how?" Telos thought about the question for a long time. She thought about the lights and the music and the names spoken aloud. She thought about the tears and the laughter and the love that seemed to flow from one human to another like water. "They remember," she finally said. "Other species forget. The humans remember. They remember everyone they have lost. They remember everyone who came before. They carry their dead with them like treasure." Her navigator made a confused sound. "That seems very heavy." "Yes," Telos agreed. "It is heavy. But they carry it anyway. That is what makes them strong." She looked back at the ghost ship, now surrounded by light and life. She looked at the tiny human figures moving back and forth, doing their slow and careful work. "We thought they were hiding," she said. "We thought they kept to themselves because they were afraid of us. But I do not think that is true anymore." "What do you think is true?" Telos took a deep breath. "I think they are healing," she said. "I think they have been healing for a very long time. And I think we just witnessed something important. Something that changes everything we thought we knew about them." She was right, but she did not yet understand just how right she was. The recovery took 3 weeks. 3 weeks of careful work, of gentle hands, of names spoken like prayers. Every body was found. Every body was catalogued. Every body was treated with respect. Admiral Kang Doan did not sleep much during those weeks. He spent his nights walking through the empty hallways of the Eternal Dawn, reading the messages left on the walls. People had written their names everywhere. They had written goodbye letters. They had drawn pictures. One small child had written, "Mama," Don't cry. In uneven letters near a sleeping chamber. Du-hun found the medical bay on the 5th day. This was where his ancestor, Kang Mira, had worked. Her body was there, sitting in a chair with her hands folded in her lap. She looked peaceful. She looked like she was sleeping. On the desk next to her was a recording device. Do-hun pressed play with shaking fingers. "This is Dr. Kang Mira," the recording said. "I am making this message for whoever finds us. I do not know when that will be. Maybe never. But I want you to know that we tried. We tried so hard to survive. The engine failed, and we could not fix it. The power was dying slowly. We knew we would not make it." There was a pause. Do-hun could hear Myra breathing in the recording. "I am not afraid," she continued. "I was afraid at first, but not anymore. We decided together that we would not panic. We would not fight. We would spend our last days being kind to each other. We would write our stories and seal them in the ship's memory. We would aim ourselves toward home and hope." Another pause. Longer this time. "I have a daughter on Earth. Her name is Kang Yumbi. She was too young to come with us. I miss her every day. I dream about her growing up, having children, having grandchildren. I will never see them, but they will exist. They will carry my blood and my name. And maybe one day, one of them will find this message." Do-hun felt tears running down his face. He did not wipe them away. "If you are my descendant," Myra said, her voice cracking now, "I want you to know that I am proud of you. I am proud that you exist. I am proud that you came looking for me. I am proud that you did not forget. That is all I ever wanted. To not be forgotten." The recording ended. Do-hun stood there for a long time, crying quietly in the empty medical bay. He cried for Mira. He cried for all the people on this ship. He cried for the 800 years of grief that humanity had carried. Then he wiped his eyes and got back to work. Lieutenant Yoon Hana found her family on the 7th day. They were in a sleeping chamber on the lower deck, all 7 of them together. The parents were holding the children. The grandparents were holding the parents. They had died as a family, wrapped in each other's arms. Hana knelt beside them and looked at the smallest body. It was the boy Yoon Tae-ho, the 6-year-old who wanted to be a pilot. He was still holding his toy spaceship. After 800 years, he was still holding it. Hana reached out and gently touched the toy. "I'm a pilot," she whispered. "I'm a pilot because of you. Grandma used to tell me stories about you. She said you loved the stars. She said you wanted to fly. So I learned to fly. For you." She took out the picture she always carried. The picture of Tae-ho smiling, holding the same toy spaceship. She placed the picture next to his body. "I kept you with me," she said. "Always. And now I'm going to take you home." The alien observers did not understand why the humans did these things. They watched Hana cry over a body she had never known. They watched Do-hun listen to a voice from centuries ago. They watched strangers embrace each other simply because they have found the same names in the ship's manifest. Captain Telos recorded everything and sent it back to the coalition. The message she attached was simple. These creatures are not what we thought. They are something more. They are something different. They carry their dead like we carry our flags. And I think that makes them dangerous in ways we never imagined. On the 15th day, Admiral Do-hun called a meeting. Every human in the fleet gathered in the main cargo bay of his ship. They stood shoulder to shoulder, thousands of them, waiting to hear what he would say. Do-hun looked at their faces. He saw grief. He saw exhaustion. But he also saw something else. He saw pride. 800 years ago, he began, we sent our best into the dark. They did not reach their destination. They did not build a new colony. They did not change the galaxy. But they did something more important. They left us their names. They left us their stories. They left us the truth about who we are. He paused and looked at the eternal dawn through the cargo bay window. We are the species that remembers, he said. We are the species that comes back. We are the species that does not leave our people behind, no matter how long it takes, no matter how far we have to go. That is our gift. That is our curse. And I would not trade it for anything in the universe. The crowd was silent for a moment. Then someone started to clap. Then another. Then another. Soon, the whole cargo bay was filled with applause and cheers and tears. Humans who had never met before hugged each other like family. Because in that moment, they were family. They had always been family. They were humanity. And they never forgot. The journey home took 3 months. The eternal dawn could not travel fast, so the fleet moved slowly, towing the ancient ship like a precious child. No one complained about the delay. After 800 years, what was 3 more months? During the journey, the humans did something that surprised Captain Telos once again. They invited her aboard. She had been watching from a distance the whole time. She had recorded everything but understood little. When the invitation came, she accepted immediately. She wanted to know more. She needed to know more. Admiral Doan met her at the airlock. His face was tired but calm. He shook her hand with one of his 2 hands. Humans only had 2 hands, Telos remembered. How strange. Thank you for finding them, Doan said. We have been looking for 800 years. You succeeded where we failed. Telos did not know what to say. I did not do anything special. I just saw a ship and sent a message. Doan smiled. It was a small smile, but it was real. Sometimes that is all it takes. One person sees something. One person decides to tell someone else. And history changes. He took her on a tour of the fleet. He showed her the white bundles that held the bodies. He showed her the recordings and the journals and the letters. He introduced her to people who had lost ancestors on the eternal dawn, and people who had no connection at all but had volunteered anyway. Why did these people come? Telos asked, pointing at the volunteers. They have no family on the ship. They are human, Doan said simply. That is enough. Telos thought about this for a long time. When the fleet finally reached Earth space, they found a welcome that no one expected. Thousands of ships were waiting for them. Civilian ships, military ships, old ships, new ships. Ships from every corner of human space. They filled the darkness like stars. And below them on every planet and moon and station, billions of humans were watching. They had stayed awake all night. They had gathered in parks and squares and rooftops. They had pointed their lights at the sky and waited. The eternal dawn was brought into Earth orbit. For the first time in 800 years, the ship saw the planet it had left behind. The planet that had never stopped waiting. The planet that had never stopped hoping. Director Park Gina stood at the memorial site. It was built on the exact spot where the eternal dawn had launched all those centuries ago. The ground was covered with flowers. The air was filled with quiet music. 50,000 names were carved into black stone walls that stretched in every direction. The ceremony took 12 hours. Each body was brought down one at a time. Each name was read aloud. Each family that could be found was given their ancestors' belongings. Each person who had no family was buried in a memorial garden, surrounded by flowers, and love. Yunhana carried the body of young Taiho herself. She walked slowly, holding him like he was still alive, like he might wake up at any moment. She placed him in the ground next to his family. She put the toy spaceship in his hands. You're home, she whispered. You're finally home. Admiral Doan buried Kangmira at sunset. Her grave faced the ocean, just as she had requested in her final recording. He read her words to the gathered crowd. I want to see the water one more time, she had written. even if it is only in my dreams. I want to hear the waves. I want to feel the salt on my skin. I want to remember what it was like to be alive. When all the bodies were buried, Director Park Gino walked to the center of the memorial. The whole world was watching. The whole galaxy was watching. Captain Tellus was watching from her ship in orbit, recording everything for the Coalition. Gina opened an old book. It was the final log of the Eternal Dawn, written by a woman named Beak Somi. She had been the last person alive on the ship. She had written her final words knowing that no one might ever read them. Gina began to read. "We set out to find a new world," she said, her voice carrying across the silent crowd. "We found something else instead. We found the truth about what we are. We are small. We are fragile. We are temporary. But we are also stubborn. We hold on. We reach out. And even when the dark takes us, we leave our names behind." She turned the page. "Whoever finds this, whatever you are, know that we were here. We tried, and we hoped you would remember." Gina closed the book. For a moment there was only silence. Billions of humans, breathing together, grieving together, healing together. Then, somewhere in the back of the crowd, someone began to sing. It was an old song. A song from before the eternal dawn. A song about home and hope and never giving up. The melody was simple. The words were even simpler. But they carried the weight of 800 years. One by one, others joined in. The song spread through the crowd like fire. It spread to the ships in orbit. It spread to the colonies on Mars and the stations around Jupiter and the settlements in far distant stars. Wherever humans lived, wherever humans breathed, the song was heard. Captain Tellus listened from her ship. She did not understand the words, but she understood the feeling. It was not just grief. It was something bigger. It was love. It was memory. It was the unbreakable bond of a species that refused to forget. She turned to her navigator. "Send everything we recorded to the Coalition," she said. "All of it. Every moment. Every song. Every name. What should I say in the message?" The navigator asked. Tellus thought about it. She thought about the lights and the music and the tears. She thought about Admiral Dawn and Lieutenant Hannah. She thought about Beak Somi's final words. "Tell them this," she said finally. "Tell them we thought the humans found a ghost ship. But we were wrong. The humans did not find ghosts. They found family. And they brought them home." She looked down at Earth, glowing blue and green in the darkness. "Tell them the humans remember. Tell them the humans never forget. And tell them that after 800 years, the Eternal Dawn finally found its way back." She paused. "Tell them it was not a ghost ship after all. It was a homecoming."